This place is a death trap!
Today, we are taking a deep dive into the final episode. Episode 10, the Season 1 finale of Widow's Bay. It was recently announced that we are indeed getting a Season 2, which is the best news ever, because the way things end in this finale, it definitely leaves us with so many more questions to explore. Get ready as we are here to break it all down. Welcome back to Thriller Vault. If you love mystery shows, thriller series, movie reviews, episode breakdowns, and fan theories, you're in the right place. He is digging through Ruth's file, specifically hoping for a cancer diagnosis, looking for a moral out to justify ending her life to break this curse. At first, Tom can't find anything that is going to help him because her files basically show that she is in incredible shape for her age. But Tom does find a medical note that warns about a dangerous mix of drugs. He realizes that mixing these medications could peacefully end Ruth's life and put an end to this curse once and for all. We can see the immense burden on Tom's face as he drives to her house. As Tom arrives and sits outside before going in, Patricia radios him, trying one last time to stop him from going through with this. In the background, he hears Wick telling him to follow through. Tom tells Patricia to keep the people safe in the shelter and to watch over Evan as he walks up to Ruth's door. Having accepted the role as the Grim Reaper, he knocks and calls her name several times before noticing that the door is unlocked. Tom walks in, hoping to maybe find her on the ground, dying out of fear. Or perhaps having a heart attack because of the storm outside. Instead, Tom hears heavy breathing coming from the other room. As Tom enters the room, he finds 84-year-old Ruth on the treadmill, being very active and healthy while listening to music. Ruth is caught by surprise to find Tom in her house for the very first time, but she is immediately happy under the belief that he is here to take her to the shelter. She thinks everyone had forgotten about her. Ruth goes on to pack some things, but Tom, obviously having his reasons for being there, suggests they stay a little bit longer since the roads are bad. While this was probably the darkest episode of the season, it still managed to have some hilarious moments sprinkled throughout, and this being one of them. As Ruth goes to get both of them some towels from upstairs, we get to see just how healthy Ruth is. She is skipping towards the stairs and sprints up them like she is 40, years younger in age. The look on Tom's face, being completely disappointed because of how healthy she is just incredible. Kay Cullen's performance in this finale was nothing short of amazing. She not only delivered the laughs as she has done all season long, but the drama bits that we see later on this episode and these moments of kindness were perfectly portrayed. I know some people were hoping that maybe Ruth was going to be evil, and that she was secretly orchestrating plans behind the scenes, sacrificing people over the years and feeding them to the island. But I am glad that the show didn't go that route. Making her genuinely kind, vibrant, and just such a nice person makes Tom's situation even more complex. If she were evil, his choice would be so much easier. But by making her innocent, the show forces us to look at Tom and his morality. Back at the town hall in the island shelter, we see that Wick and Patricia have their own problems to deal with. They try to play the roles of peacekeepers, trying to maintain order, keep things calm, and ration supplies, to give out to the 137 people in the shelter. Leave it to Rosemary to give them a pep talk that doesn't go anywhere, about how the person who worked in her position before her told her to never go down to the shelter. Later on, we find out exactly why. Meanwhile, Basha's wife, Shell, is told that everything is okay with her pregnancy. But in reality, the doctor pulls Basha aside and tells him that the baby is expected to arrive that very night, despite being told that the baby won't be arriving for another 7 weeks. This is the moment that the show pivots to the other stakes in this episode, putting Basher under immense pressure where he has to protect his unborn child from the situation. He does not want his baby to be born on this island because obviously it will never be able to leave. Back at Ruth's house, she puts on some tea for her and Tom. Notice the picture of Evan that is shown on the refrigerator a few times in this episode, which is a little indicator that Evan means a lot more to her than just some kid she babysits every now and then. Tom takes a look at her calendar and sees her everyday routine. Ruth is always up to something, she is always busy, and she even makes time to help her neighbor go up and down her own porch every single day. This not only continues to show Tom just how healthy and active she is. After seeing the calendar, Tom goes to the bathroom, deeply doubting this whole situation and basing it all on Rosemary's genealogy. He calls Patricia, but has no luck in reaching her. As Tom looks in the mirror, he is reminded why he is here. He sees Ruth's medication in the cabinet, and it is the exact same medication that was noted not to be mixed together. Ruth prepares the tea, and Tom mistakenly picks a batch that he thinks sets the mood best for Ruth, which is calm and soothing. Unfortunately for him, it is going to take 27 minutes to make. Ruth takes him on a house tour while they wait, making what he has to do sit with him even longer. She takes him to see the room where Evan stays when he sleeps over, and Tom gets to see the emergency ladder that Evan requested, just in case of a fire, which is actually his way of sneaking out at night. To pass the time, Ruth shows Tom her photo album filled with old memories, including her old bosses and her ex-boyfriend, who she says was bit by an animal and later became that same animal, which is just another Tuesday in Widow's Bay. She also shows Tom all the men who made a pass at her back in her heyday, including the pastor, who she looked up to like a father. Speaking of fathers, Ruth tells Tom that her father built the house that she stays in, and he unfortunately passed away because something in the lake took his life. Despite having experienced a lot of loss throughout her life, Ruth remains optimistic because growing up in Widows, Bay has taught her how to weather the storms, which is the big theme of this episode. Characters managing to survive in the face of death. Tom uses this opportunity to offer up a scenario to Ruth. He brings up the question, what if there was a way to stop all the bad things from happening in Widow's Bay? He goes over the meaning behind the trolley problem with her. What if Ruth had the chance to stop all the horrible things from happening by killing one person to save the town? Ruth answers by simply saying no. She wouldn't be able to live with herself by making the choice to kill someone. Instead, Ruth would rather live with the consequences, believing that life isn't about controlling the bad things that life throws at you. She goes on to share a beautiful quote with Tom by Tennessee Williams. The world is violent and material. It will have its way with you. We live in a perpetually burning building, and what we must say from it all the time is love. Tom is surprised to learn that Ruth actually worries about him because of how he avoids the truth. She brings up how he has been wanting to make Widow's Bay into something that he will never be. Ruth goes on to tell Tom that life is filled with ugly and beauty, and it comes with a terrible glory that just needs to be accepted for what it is. We can see that Tom is starting to change his mind again, but then he takes notice of a particular item in Ruth's belongings. That item is none other than the brooch that Sarah gave Francis, which ended up being passed down as a family heirloom. This confirms that Rosemary's genealogy test was actually true, providing another sign for Tom to continue his plans to protect his son. As the tea is ready, Tom goes to get it, and we get another shot of Evan's picture on the refrigerator. This is a clear hint of how important he is going to be later in this episode. We watch as Tom crushes up Ruth's medicine that isn't supposed to be mixed together, puts it in her tea, and hands it to her. We watch as Ruth begins to drink it. What makes this scene so great is how it highlights Ruth's view on life, perfectly capturing what makes the writing of this show so good. The true tragedy in that scene wasn't just that Ruth might be dying. It is that she spent her final moments showing Tom the beauty of life. Back at the shelter, while passing out blankets, Patricia finds a note that reads, "If you're reading this, I'm already dead." It feels like this was a moment in which the island played a part in the fear and the anxiety that we're about to witness with the people in the shelter. Because as we find out, the island feeds off of the fear of others. As things get more intense, one of the townsfolk asks Patricia how much longer they can expect to stay in the shelter. An old-timer makes things even worse by saying how past storms have lasted a lot longer than usual compared to what goes on in the mainland. Patricia holds it together, playing it cool and reassuring them that they have everything under control and everything they need to ride out the storm. Patricia has Dale go get some card games to entertain the townsfolk to pass the time and distract them. But what Dale is about to stumble upon is something much darker. Dale finds a hidden room, and inside that room he finds old film reels. One of them is labeled for them, and he begins to play it. In the video, a man speaks to the offering who has been chosen by a committee of their peers after a very rigorous selection process. The man says, "Maybe you've committed a crime, or owe a debt to society, or have been found wanting in some way. Although you'll never know, take comfort in the fact that there is an absolutely unassailable reason you're here. Accept your fate and take pride. Your sacrifice will save countless members of our community from needless suffering. Thank you again for your sacrifice. Widow's Bay thanks you. This answers a massive question regarding who has been keeping up with the hidden room with the chair and the metal doors. This video confirms that there are people within the town who have been keeping up the ritual of feeding the island to end the cycles of the curse. Back with the others, Basher tries to ask Patricia about Tom's whereabouts, but she does her best to avoid him, at least for now. Meanwhile, leave it to Evan's friend, PJ, to get him into some trouble. He has Evan and his new crush, Kelly, follow him into a secret passage that takes them underneath the shelter, while Kenny spots them and follows them. Upstairs, Patricia and Wick pass out food and water. Within minutes, people notice that the food and water are filled with mold, and they begin to fight. Basher sees this and continues to feel the pressure of his baby being born in this chaos, as he goes to get Shell some water from the kitchen. Patricia and Basher are in the kitchen, and Basher demands Patricia tell him the truth about where Tom is. We don't see what she tells him right away, but it becomes clear later on that she told him. Tom is at Ruth's house to end the curse. Speaking of Ruth, after drinking the tea from Tom, she's slowly falling asleep, and Tom believes that she is possibly dying. He goes on to tell Ruth about how Lauren would try to tell him stories about the island, and he would basically laugh her off and tease her about them. Deep down, he wanted to believe it, but it wasn't until the incident with the ferry that he knew the curse about the island was real. Years later, he still brought tourists to the island. He told himself that it was for Evan, but selfishly, it was for himself as well. Now the families on this island are at risk because of him. Tom sees Ruth is out cold and believes she is dead. He apologizes and says that he just had to make things right. But as Tom goes to confirm that Ruth has passed on, he realizes that she was just taking a cat nap, and she goes on to tell him more stories about her past. Back with Evan, PJ, and Kelly. She gives Evan a kiss, and they continue to go down the underground tunnel. Of course, they find the mysterious secret room with the chair and the metal door. Back upstairs, the chaos continues, as the lights begin to flicker, and a creepy audio track plays throughout the shelter, saying, "Keep calm and do not beg. It's time. Listen to your facilitator. Move forward. Do not beg." Meanwhile, Dale is watching another film, which is labeled "For You This Time," meant for the members of the committee. The man in the film tells the members watching to be strong and to remember that it's all for the greater good and for survival. Dale watches footage of a group of blindfolded townsfolk being lined up to be sacrificed in the exact same room underneath the shelter. The instructor in the film says that the bad times won't end until the covenant is honored, and honored fully. A life for a life, one soul for each bell toll. Back with the others, the lights are now completely out. Patricia temporarily manages to calm everyone down. But after watching the film, Dale comes out of the room and tells everyone in the shelter that this place is a death trap. Hearing this, everyone begins to completely panic. Back with Ruth and Tom, feeling like he can't go through with this. Tom is now in another room and tries to reach out to Patricia to check on his son. All Tom hears over the radio is people screaming in fear. Hearing these screams from the shelter is the exact thing. Tom needs to get back on track, as he knows now that he has to take a more aggressive approach in killing Ruth to ensure his son's safety. Tom now has a pillow in his hand, preparing to suffocate Ruth as he sits next to her. He tells Ruth, who is slowly going in and out of consciousness, that she is a good person and doesn't deserve what's about to happen to her. Ruth wakes up and tells him about an affair that she had with a married man when she was 40. She was fully aware of the fact that he was married, but she still went along with it. Ruth wants to prove that maybe she isn't that good of a person. She tells Tom that she wanted the man to leave his wife for her, but he wouldn't do so. As it turned out, Ruth ended up pregnant, hid this from everyone, and decided to keep the baby. The man raised a child with his wife, and Ruth would watch her own child grow up from afar. Unfortunately, Ruth's daughter would later pass away, but Ruth was able to see so many things that her daughter experienced in life, including falling in love with Tom. Yes, Ruth had a secret child, and it was Lauren, Tom's dead wife. Ruth visited Lauren at the home after her incident and told her that she was her secret mom, which explains the story about what Lauren was talking about in her letter to Evan. Ruth stayed in Tom's life, specifically to be in her grandson's life, that being Evan. It appears that the drugs played a part in Ruth telling the truth, that she has kept a secret for most of her life. Tom knocks the tea out of her hand as she tries to take another sip from it, and yells at her, asking who else she has told this secret to. She responds that she has told no one else. Tom suddenly realizes a horrific truth. Evan will never be able to leave the island now, because he is a direct descendant of Richard Warren. Tom realizes that he almost killed his own mother-in-law. He picks her up to take her to the doctor to get the mixture of pills out of her system. As he lifts her up, the door flies open. Tom yells no, telling the intruder to stop, but a gunshot goes off. It is Basher. He shot her because he learned the truth from Patricia, and he knew Tom wouldn't be able to go through with what was planned. Basher was under the belief that Ruth was the last Warren descendant, and if he killed her, he would be protecting his own newborn child. Tom is obviously shocked by what just happened and tells Basher that she wasn't the last descendant. Basher points the gun at Tom, wanting to know who this last descendant is. Tom lies and says he doesn't know, but obviously, he knows that it is his own son, Evan. We cut back to the secret ritual sacrifice room, where Kenny finds Evan and his friends, demanding they leave immediately. As they run out, PJ stupidly locks Kenny inside the room. Evan stays behind and tries to open the door to help Kenny, but he hears Kenny screaming inside for help as something opens the inner doors and pulls Kenny inside. As this is happening, back with Tom and Basher, they both notice that the storm has suddenly ended. Without them knowing it, the island has just been fed. Tom sees that Ruth is still alive. You truly cannot kill Ruth. She is as tough as nails and hard to kill. This is the last time we see Basher and Ruth in the finale. This leaves us wondering, did Shell have the baby? If so, is there some type of loophole where, since the curse was temporarily stopped because Kenny was fed to the island, their baby is going to be okay? And will Ruth manage to survive both the bad mix of medication and being shot? Will we see her in season 2? Meanwhile, back with the others in the shelter, they also hear that the storm has ended. And Patricia and Wick think that the curse is officially over. Back in the tunnels, Evan notices the door has unlocked itself. He looks inside to find Kenny's flashlight on the floor. The inner doors are slightly open, and Kenny is completely gone, having been fed to the island. It is crazy what happened to Kenny. He seemed to be such a nice guy. But his death was actually foreshadowed back in episode 5 during Tom's drug trip, when we first met Kenny gathering up trash bins. Does anyone else have the feeling that PJ purposely took Evan and Kelly down to that room to have them sacrificed? We know it was said that PJ wasn't born on the island, but is that actually true? It has been stated how bad of an influence PJ is. Remember when Reverend Bryce came out of the forest and said there is evil here? Looking directly at PJ, PJ was also the one who took Evan and his friends to the boogeyman's house. And now he is responsible for what happened to Kenny. It is highly possible that in season 2, it will be revealed that PJ is a part of that secret committee who has been feeding the island for all these years. I believe he fully planned to sacrifice Evan and Kelly before Kenny arrived. As we wrap up this finale, it is the next morning. The storm has completely ended, and Tom throws Sarah's brooch into the water, which to him is his way of solidifying that this curse is officially over. We see Evan in the car smiling at his dad, thinking that everything is going to go back to normal and that everything is fine. But then we hear the bells of the church ringing. They ring exactly 8 times. Remember what that film reel said. The island will make its needs known. Kenny's sacrifice wasn't enough for the island, and it only temporarily stopped the curse. 1 soul for each bell toll. This means the curse is far from over, and 8 sacrifices are now being requested by this haunted island, leading us directly into the next season. What does that ending mean for season 2? There are still so many unanswered questions from season 1. What did Reverend Bryce find that led him to taking his own life? Who was that mysterious 43rd passenger from the very first episode? Who are these new 8 sacrifices going to be? Is the island going to be more aggressive and more demanding? Will the town finally collectively realize the truth? Or will the secret committee just keep finding ways to appease the island? If there is a secret committee still operating among the townsfolk, does it include PJ? Or maybe even Rosemary? We also can't forget about Basher and Shell's baby. Could that infant life be another target? A fresh soul for the island? The possibilities for season 2 are endless and absolutely terrifying. Overall, this first season was a true masterclass in a slow burn horror with great character development. It created an incredible atmosphere of dread, while the comedic beats were peppered in perfectly. The show did a fantastic job of proving that you can have Excellent storytelling, within a tight runtime without any filler episodes. Thank you for tuning into this full breakdown on Thriller Vault. Make sure to leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions about the finale in the comments below. See you on the next breakdown.